Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video we're talking about the Steam Deck, Nintendo Switch, Denuvo, and more. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off here talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on Android with Skyline, and Skyline's got yet another brand new release. If you head on over to skyline-emu.1 and click on download, you'll see the latest version at the time of filming is version 1955. On top of that, the paid testing early access version of Skyline, Skyline Edge, just got a brand new release. Version 41 just dropped and we've now got per game settings. Someone's got Fight and Rage up and running at a whopping 190 frames per second. Everyone's favorite Devil May Cry 2 is up and running and holding steady at 61 frames per second and looking great. Smash Bros. Ultimate is up and running and holding steady at 60 frames per second on a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, and this is pretty impressive. And textures have been fixed in Skyrim, and Skyrim is looking a whole lot better as well. Next up, we're talking about the Steam Deck and RetroDeck, and RetroDeck just released a brand new version. So at the time of filming, the latest build here is version 0.61b. We've got a whole bunch of fixes and some slight adjustments. They've removed Ryujinx as it was broken. Not broken in general, just on RetroDeck. They've also updated all of the emulators and cores to the latest versions except for DuckStation. But for DuckStation, they did fix the pre-configuration. If you are curious about RetroDeck, it's 100% free. It's on FlatHub, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Feel free to check it out. Moving on, and we're talking about Denuvo and Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy was just released a couple of weeks ago with the latest and greatest version of Denuvo, and it's already been defeated thanks to Empress. And speaking about new games, next up we're talking about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And there was an FAQ posted and there was an answer in there that I don't think a lot of people are gonna like. So the question is an internet connection required to play Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? And the answer is yes. An internet connection is required to play Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League solo or via online co-op. So even if you wanted to play this game solo, you'll have to be connected to the internet, which is super unfortunate. But moving on to something more positive, and next up we're talking about Mortal Kombat 12 and Warner Brothers. During a Warner Brothers earnings call today, they accidentally confirmed the existence of Mortal Kombat 12 and the fact that it was releasing this year. I'm certain they weren't planning on announcing it during the call, but they did, and I'm kind of curious to see where conversations go from here. And next up, we're talking about the Raspberry Pi, and Raspberry Pi has just released their first update for 2023 for Raspberry Pi OS. This update isn't earth-shattering by any stretch of the imagination, but they did update the Linux kernel. We've got a bunch of bug fixes, and they've also added in support for MSDRI3 video driver. And speaking about Linux kernels, next up we're talking about Ubuntu. And today, Ubuntu 22.04.2 LTS Jammy Jellyfish was released. They've updated the Linux kernel to 5.19, and Mesa was updated to 22.2.5. And if you prefer a different flavor of Ubuntu, well, 22.04.2 has been showing up on the other flavors as well. And last up here, we're talking about the gaming-focused ChimeraOS. And ChimeraOS has just released their first update this year. So at the time of filming, ChimeraOS 39 is the latest update. The kernel here is Linux 6.1. Mesa drivers of 22.3.4, so the kernel and Mesa drivers are pretty darn recent. And the NVIDIA driver of 525, and that's because of the kernel. On top of that, they've got a whole bunch of fixes here, and some improvements, for example, Intel GPU compatibility. On top of that, they've also added in Nintendo DS support. If you wanted to check out ChimeraOS, it's free, it's open source, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos, don't tempt fate, save your state.